The sun rose gently over the vast, unbroken horizon of the ancient Americas, spilling warm gold across endless plains, vast forests, and winding rivers that had flowed long before any human foot had touched their banks. In that early age, when the world still carried the scent of its own beginning, the land teemed with life. Bison thundering across the grasslands, jaguars prowling through lush jungles, condors soaring above snow-white peaks, and millions of people shaping civilizations whose stories would one day sink into the soil, waiting for someone to rediscover them. This was an era before the strangers arrived from across the ocean, before maps redrew destinies, before entire cultures vanished into whispers. It was a time when indigenous civilizations flourished. Among these civilizations, one stood timeless along the heart of the continent, a community called Ptolemaic, known only from the oral traditions of the oldest tribes, a civilization that rose long before stone pyramids pierced the skies or sprawling cities flourished beside wide rivers. Ptolemaic was not the largest civilization in the Americas, nor the most technologically advanced, but it was one of the earliest to weave its life directly into the pulse of the land, becoming inseparable from the forests, rivers, and seasons that shaped them. Ptolemaic lay nestled between a sweeping valley and a river that curved like a giant serpent, a place where fog drifted like white silk over the morning dew, and where the nights echoed with the songs of spirits the Ptolemaians believed walked among them. Houses of woven reeds rose from the earth in gentle circles, blending into the land so completely that from a distance the settlement looked like part of the valley itself. Men and women moved through their days with the rhythm of the river, fishing at dawn, gathering fruits during the golden afternoon, celebrating the arrival of starlight with drums that beat like the heart of the world. At the center of Ptolemaic stood the eternal fire, a flame kept burning for generations. The Ptolemaians believed that as long as the eternal fire burned, their ancestors would watch over them. Children were taught that each spark carried a memory, a whisper from a long-gone elder offering protection. The fire was tended continuously by the keepers of the flame, a small order of spiritual guardians who devoted their lives to preserving the balance between humans and nature. Among the young ones born during a season of abundant harvests and warm rains was a boy named Atemu, whose hair carried the deep black of obsidian and whose eyes reflected the restless curiosity of the sky before a storm. From early childhood, Atemu was different. While other children chased birds, climbed trees, or splashed in the river, he spent long hours listening to the stories of elders, asking questions that made even the oldest among them pause. He wanted to know where the people came from, how the eternal fire began, and why the stars moved in patterns that seemed to mirror the cycles of life. When Atemu was 10, he witnessed a moment that would shape his destiny. One night, while the village gathered around the eternal fire for the Festival of Lights, the flames suddenly flared higher than they ever had before. Sparks spiraled into the air, swirling like glowing insects. The villagers gasped and stepped back, fearing the sudden burst of energy. Elders began chanting, believing it was the ancestors' way of sending a message. Atemu, drawn inexplicably to the fire, stepped closer. As he stared into the roaring blaze, he saw a vision. Mountains crowned with snow, vast deserts shimmering with heat, and people from far-off lands coming together to build something magnificent. The ground trembled beneath him, though no one else felt it. Atemu collapsed. When he awoke, he found himself inside the chamber of the keepers, surrounded by baskets of herbs and symbols carved into stone. The oldest keeper, A woman named Yaluna leaned over him. Her hair was white as winter moonlight, and her eyes carried decades of wisdom. "What did you see?" she asked softly. Atemu hesitated. The images were still vivid. Lands he had never visited, people he had never met, and a feeling that Ptolemaic was only a single heartbeat in a larger living world. "I saw everything," he whispered. Yaluna exchanged glances with the other keepers. There had been prophecies of a child who would one day see beyond Ptolemaic, beyond the valley, beyond even the horizon itself. A child destined to walk paths untouched by any Ptolemaian. Some believed this child would bring prosperity. Others feared such a destiny, for change often came with storms. Over the next several years, Atemu trained with the keepers, learning their sacred traditions, the reading of winds, the interpretation of animal behavior, the songs of rivers, and the ancient rituals that tied the people to the land. He learned how to read the subtle language of fire, the shifting shadows that danced within its heart. But more importantly, he learned to listen, truly listen to the world around him. By the time he turned 17, Atemu sensed that the valley no longer whispered only Ptolemaian stories. The world was growing larger, more complex. Birds migrated in strange patterns. The river carried driftwood from unknown forests upstream. Hunters occasionally glimpsed unknown tribes wandering near the mountains. Something was changing. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon and the village prepared for the harvest festival, Atemu walked alone beside the river. The air smelled of fresh rain, though the sky above was clear. Suddenly, he saw movement upstream. A group of strangers was approaching, their bodies painted in colors the Ptolemaians had never seen, their clothing woven from fiber unfamiliar to the valley's artisans, their faces sharp and proud. They carried staves adorned with feathers, stones, and symbols that shimmered in the dusk light. They were not hostile, but their arrival filled Atemu with a mixture of fear and excitement. He rushed back to alert the elders, and soon the entire village gathered in cautious anticipation. The strangers introduced themselves as the Ocelot people, a mountain tribe known in myths but never before seen by Ptolemac's living generations. Their leader, a tall man with hair braided in silver beads, stepped forward. "We come with a message. The world changes. Great forces move across the land. We seek the child of the flame, the one who sees beyond." All eyes slowly turned to Atemu. A silence heavier than stone fell over the valley. Yaluna emerged from the crowd, her voice steady. "He is the one." Thus began a journey that would lead Atemu far from his home, across landscapes vast and sacred, through forests older than memory, and deserts shimmering with secrets. But neither Atemu nor his people yet understood the magnitude of what was unfolding. What began as a simple meeting between two tribes would soon ripple across the entire continent, binding civilizations together in unexpected ways. That night, under the canopy of stars, Atemu sat beside the eternal fire, feeling the weight of destiny settle on his shoulders. He knew the world beyond Ptolemaic was calling him. The mountains he saw in his vision now whispered with real voices, the wind carrying faint songs of distant cities, cities where stone rose toward the heavens and people charted the stars with precision. As the fire crackled softly, Atemu closed his eyes. He did not know it yet, but he was about to witness the flourishing of civilizations in ways no one in Ptolemaic had ever imagined. The rise of mighty empires, the interweaving of cultures, the shaping of histories that would one day be buried, forgotten, and rediscovered by future generations.